originating from the podcast studio inside FFAM360's headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. This is the Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast. The Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast is designed to encourage, equip, and inspire our audience through a combination of inspirational stories and real-life experiences shared by other successful and skilled leaders in a variety of vocations. We hope that the Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast empowers each one of us to step out, step up, and ultimately thrive as leaders. Now here's our host, Mr. Matt Maloney.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Matt Maloney. Thank you for joining us again with John and Mary Maloney. John and Mary are not only my business partners, but they're my parents. So let's pick back up with where we left off last week, and excited to talk about today. So we moved to Atlanta. Okay, and I remember as the story goes, and I'll tee this up for the audience here. We moved to Atlanta, and they said, okay, well, we have very little money. We're going to move in with your aunt and uncle. We're going to start two businesses. We're going to start a company that manages accounts receivables for companies, mostly defaulted receivables, because that was what the background was. And we're going to start a business that's in the interior design. And as the story goes, as I remember it, I don't know, you can tell me if this is right or not, but whichever business took off first, the other one would work in the other one.
That's correct.
So that means if interior design took off, John Maloney was going to be an interior designer.
You got it.
That's good.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I came up with an idea at that time. Mary and I talked about it, and I put an ad in the newspaper, and I wanted to get some salesmen. And I told them, if you're tired, basically said, if you're tired of working and taking all the responsibility and not making any money, call me. And so I did. I got 5 salesmen that were
with like big credit, like GE, General GE,
they were,
and big ones.
With GE and places like that. One of them was at that time Exxon. He ran the credit department for Exxon.
Yeah.
So these guys came in, and it was under Sega's hair salon in the little office
in Tucker, Georgia.
Right.
Yeah.
And I told them, well, we had a company over in Houston, Texas, and we're getting ready to build this office over here in Atlanta, Georgia. And so we were able to hire these 5 guys. And so
these were big, heavy hitters, though. I mean, head of all credit for ExxonMobil, head of credit for GE. They obviously had good careers. They were making good money. They were with massive publicly traded corporations, but I guess something, spoke to them in their, for lack of a better description, their entrepreneurial spirit to say, you know what, I'd like to be part of a startup, if you will. I mean, it wasn't kind of a startup, but be part of that and grow. So I guess the comp plan, whatever that you put together, was just attractive to them. And
it was basically it was a percentage deal, but it went pretty fast because Bob Toma was one of our salesmen, which we just went to his funeral just recently.
Yeah,
and he had a friend of his that worked for a bank. They had cars all over the country, and
weren't they selling Yugos? But they were letting people roll in like. They could purchase their washer and dryer, and they could buy their couches and jewelry and roll it all into the auto loan for these Yugos, which who knows what junkyard all those Yugos are sitting in these days.
Well, most of the Yugos later on, they sent them over to some of the islands, and that's how they got rid of them. They could drive them around.
Because they were small,
the Bahamas
real small
and stuff
cars.
They sent them over there. But anyways, we got the contract, and next thing you know, we are in the repo business. Next thing you know, Mary Maloney, we jumps into the business, and she's out repoing cars.
So then you left the interior design bit. The new one that you had started here was kind of going, but didn't really take off. Right. You jumped into this, and this is an interesting part of the story that I think that the audience needs to kind of appreciate. One of the things that I've learned from my parents is no one is too good for any job, and if you ever have that mentality, you're not good enough to be an entrepreneur. You've got to be willing to do the dishes, take out the trash, or in their case, go in the middle of the night for a major, regional bank and repossess automobiles, and so it's an interesting story. Every time I tell this story, people look at me like, wide-eyed and like, oh my gosh, your parents were repossessing cars in the middle of the night, and they repossessed tens of thousands of these things over periods of time. And I said, that's one of the great lessons that I've been taught, as a, generational, multi-generational entrepreneur and leader now of my family and the organization that we have now, is that we better be prepared to do anything in our organization. And the old saying of lead by example. And it was a different kind of leadership. And we'll talk a little bit about leadership in a moment, but it was a different kind of leadership back then. It was not what leadership is today. I talked about on one of my prior podcasts, these concepts of leadership and been around since biblical times, but they really didn't start scientifically looking at and defining leadership until the 20th century in the 80s, right? And so a lot of the stories that I've heard from great entrepreneurs who have built successful and amazing organizations, their stories just like what we're hearing here from Mary and John about just some of the trials and tribulations and some of the things that they did that, other people, and this isn't to knock other people, just to say that they were like, oh, I would never do that. There's no way I could do that. Not from a, snooty perspective, but just from a, like, I don't know if I could do that, put my life in danger. But I think that that's really an interesting story and reality that I learned from you guys and in building this company here that we have today, which we'll talk about, the FFAM360 Alliance of Companies in a little bit. But go ahead. So you were talking about, so that's when Mary left and came over and started running the business with you as you guys grew that. And so continue.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think that really helped us, I stepped back and said, well, let me just take care of operations and these kind of things, and let me get out of trying to control any money.
Yeah.
So all the money went over to her. As you know, I don't even sign on a checking account here.
Yeah. You don't even have, right. You ask her for your $5, $10 allowance every day.
That's right. Yeah. And so I got into the operations, and all I cared about was running business. And I didn't have to worry about anything else. And she worried about the money, the accounting, and we let it go from there. And that's the way it's always been since then. And it's worked out for us. And she, she's very dedicated to, as you well realize, to making sure she accounts for. She sees every dollar that goes through this place. Yeah. She even challenges you on your expense reports
all the time. I mean, hey, she calls me up and says, "Hey, what's going on with this? What's happening here?" Or I've got to hear it from when I'm from all of our sales executives across the company. And I'm looking at expense reports and I approve it, and then it goes to her and she calls me back and says, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I approve that expense." So, but I think that and that. And I talk about this in a prior podcast episode, and you mentioned it at the outset, having the right people in place. And everyone, there's not one type of leader. There's not one leadership characteristic that's better than the other. There's different strengths that a team is made of, or different people that are team made of, and each person brings different strengths to the table. And, Mary's is discernment and also, just being very critical, which can be, in some circles, can be negative, but it's also very positive when it comes to finances and looking at the financial health of the organization and the details and all of those things. So there's no doubt about that.
We've been into which you're, of course, on the buying side of the business quite a bit. And back in those days there, we because of Jim Holcomb, he had a friend of his that worked with Georgia Power. Yeah. And he said, well, Georgia Power is talking about selling their receivables. And this is how we got into the debt buying.
That's how you got it. So that was different than RTC from the prior company. So that's how you got into the last company before the FFAM360 Alliance.
That's right. Yeah. And so we were able to cut a deal with Georgia Power. I would go in and buy their receivables from them. Yeah. And at a certain point, then
because of the commission, the Energy Commission wouldn't allow you to settle accounts.
That's correct.
You gave one discount to Matt Maloney. You had to give that same discount to every customer on the Georgia Power grid.
100% correct.
So that was how they got around that. They said, well, we'll start selling those.
They sold it to us, and so we would keep it.
I remember that.
I'd buy it at 12.2 cents on the dollar, and then we would up to a certain point, which I know the point, but up to a certain point, then we would share with them for like 50-50. Then you go up to another point, then we would give it back to them at that point.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah,
out. It was a great deal.
Yeah, it's very innovative. I mean, frankly, it's probably in the receivables management industry, one of the more innovative and early on deals, because that happened in the 80s. I guess that was late 80s, right? Mm-hmm. So when all that took place.
Yeah.
So you started that, just for the audience's benefit, you started that company in the basement of Gene's home, where we lived with my uncle and aunt. Started that company, as the story goes, is roughly $13,500. Started that business. That was 1987. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to 1997. So in 10 years, it went from a business being in the basement to all the things that you just talked about, to roughly, I know, several thousand employees across the U.S., maybe globally, and then you ended up taking it public. So talk about that experience.
Yeah, we went. Actually, I wish we went public sooner, but we were supposed to go out public in November of. This was when the savings. I mean, not the same with. When Bill Clinton was in, and there was some downturn in the economy, some serious downturn in the economy. So we couldn't go. We held back from going out that November. And so we didn't go out till February the following year
of
98.
1998.
Yeah, in 98 we went out. Yeah. At that time there, we teamed up with 5 other companies. We did a roll up, and we went to the New York Stock Exchange, and that's what we did then, and that's a good deal.
Yeah.
Got you through college.
Yeah, that's right. And I used to work in that company, and oddly enough, ironically enough, we're sitting here in my office in this building here in Atlanta, Georgia, Peachtree Corners, Georgia. And when you guys took that company public, the headquarters was in this same building.
That's correct.
With that prior company.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's correct.
On a different floor.
Yes.
We have 2 floors, or we have 3 floors in this building now, but you guys were on the one floor we don't have. You were on the 3rd floor. Yeah.
Yeah, we had, and also we had a legal office on the 4th floor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That amazes me every time I hear that story. So
not many companies go public.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a big, I mean, it's to some extent, the ultimate entrepreneurial success story, right? The however you want to look at and define the American dream, but in some circles that was that, right? But I want to jump into now, 2001, November of 2001, leading into 2002. So I remember distinctly in 2001, we're sitting around the Thanksgiving table. Gene lived 2 doors down. I can't remember if he was at the house or not, but I just remember it was Thanksgiving, and I was at the house, and we were having dinner with the family, and I had talked about, I'm kind of disappointed that, we sold that prior company. I felt like that maybe I could have, of course, 20-something-year-old kid, I think that I'm, 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and then I'm smarter than you, and I can do it all, right? Right.
Well, you are.
Well, yeah. Well, it may take another 40 years for me to get there. But that being said, that was the mentality, right? And so, and I was an entrepreneur, had that entrepreneurial spirit already. So I said, I think I want to start a business. I want to start a business that buys and finances receivables. I won't go into who it was, but I used a couple of years earlier in my senior college, kind of one of my economics classes. This guy who was buying receivables, and he was kind of taking over the market, and he's not around anymore in the business. But I said, I think I could do that. I can go out. We have access to capital markets. We can raise it. I just need money. I just need, I need equity in the business. And you guys had a different thought. You said, well, I'll tell you what, we'll do it, but we'll do it together. I'm not going to let you just go out there and run wild with it. So we'll do it together, and we'll start a company that, both manages receivables and buys and finances receivables. But I remember you saying, or maybe both you saying, but in order to do it, we really needed to start with a small platform, instead of starting from scratch. Let's go find a business that we can buy, a small one. But we found a small business, and that business happened to be in Atlanta, Georgia. Yep. They had maybe 10 employees, 5 employees, whatever it was, but they had a system, and they had some licensing, and they had a little bit of a shell, a little bit of a core team. And you said, that's the one. It's a small investment. We can make it, and then we can grow it from there.
You and I drove up in the car from Destin, drove up.
Yeah.
And you were with me when we cut the deal with her.
Yeah.
And her name is Connie.
Yeah.
And so we cut the deal with Connie at that point.
Yep.
And
Great people.
Yeah.
Her and her husband.
And the rest is history. We
Yeah.
took that company from there to
Where's that now? Yeah.
where it's at now.
So 20 years, so February this month is our 20-year anniversary. And I think maybe just pause for a second with all your experiences from the past and all the companies that you guys had and built and the things that we did as a family and the struggles that we had and the successes, however you define those, but those things that make us in our family. Is there one thing that you can look at and say, you know what, this is probably what I'm most proud of in my life? I don't know if there's one thing that you can think of that you look back in that, or
I can say a few things. Of course, you, our grandchildren, Mary and I still together. But also, maybe, I don't know if this needs to be on this podcast or not, but I'm going to say it, is I don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very important that people understand
Yeah.
that
Well, it was part of your story, part of one of your struggles.
Yeah, part of my story. And I'm very fortunate I overcome that, and it's very fortunate that I had a family that helped support that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's part of your story. It shapes who you are. I think that it, and recognizing that every day, I mean, it's just of all the things that you went through and as a family we went through and different things, but I look back and I'm like, gosh, it's amazing that you think about all that we got through that as a family, got through all the different things as a family. And in the midst of some of that, you were obviously, drinking but running businesses and,
right.
and then building businesses. And, it's astonishing to me where it's all turned out and how great it is. And
I have
how thankful
I have a good support group here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
She
You
kept
gotta
it
be
together.
persistent.
Yeah,
You have to be persistent.
She kept it together.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
I could charge in the wind, but she was right there to make sure, guide me.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. So, we start this company. We're growing this business. I remember the first major deal we signed. We had signed some clients and was with Discover Card on buying receivables.
That's correct.
And then shortly thereafter, we ended up buying a company, another company to kind of tuck into us, which got us back in, or got you guys back in, my first time into the subrogation business. So all of a sudden now we started to diversify. And I think the message here is that over this 20-year period, we started out not with a grand vision, frankly. It goes back to the quote, you don't have to see the full staircase, you just have to take the first step. And that's basically what we did. We didn't have this grand vision of what we wanted the company to be. That vision evolves and continues to grow. And so, we were doing credit and collections. We were buying some receivables, doing maybe some financing. And then all of a sudden, boom, we get into insurance subrogation. And then fast forward another 4 or 5 years and boom, we get into healthcare. And we first are just doing, patient billing and collections. And then, we have this idea and this vision to say, let's swim upstream. Let's go from the back of the bus to the front of the bus. Let's develop a fully articulated revenue cycle company. And then we didn't see the whole staircase. We just saw the first step and boom, next thing you know, we're in healthcare. And then, so forth and so on into today. We just recently did our most recent acquisition of an auto finance company. And so now we're as part of our alliance of companies, we're an auto originating creditor from that side of it, originating auto loans. I think back on it and I look at it and I share this story with friends of mine, and when you're in it, you don't have a full appreciation of it because you're just working every day. And it's like, okay, I see this, it's not some grand vision, but I see this opportunity over here. Let's take that first step. And next thing, that first step comes, we've climbed the whole staircase. All right, next floor, let's take that first step. We don't know where the staircase goes. Sometimes we take a step and maybe there's no other steps. Yep. And we've encountered that too. But I think it's just amazing. So when you look at this company, the FFAM360 Alliance of Companies. And, Gene was involved in the company before, so we had other family members involved before we bought him out. And that was a great experience, and it was great to have family. So there's a lot of nepotism in this business. But I don't know, what additional stories are there that you'd like to share about, things that you're either proud of or can think about with this organization, with where we're at today in the FFAM360 Alliance?
I think for both Mary and I, I'll never forget, because Steve Goldstein, who used to work with our the other company that went public, and he stayed on with them. We got a call, and he said that he and his partner wanted to buy out, or he and his friend buddy wanted to buy out a guy that owned the collection agency out there in Phoenix, Arizona. And he didn't have the money to do it. Yeah. So we came in and we bought 90% of the company, and I think Steve got like 10% of it at that time. Yeah. So we went in and bought that, and that gave us a national presence
because we had the Phoenix office.
Because we had
and what a great acquisition. Probably, as I look back on everything, I wouldn't say probably, I'd say definitely our best acquisition of all the company acquisitions we've done to date. It's our best one, and primarily because it's given us a great partner in Steve Goldstein. He's a great partner. He's a great friend. He's part of our family. Just like us, he's gone through his trials and tribulations, but he's come out of those things and ahead of them. I'm proud of him as a father and what he's done with his boys. So I think that that really is a testament to going back to the concept of it's the people you surround yourself with, right? And sometimes people go through tough seasons, but if they have the heart and soul of someone who's going to be a good partner and a good entrepreneur, or a heart and soul of someone who's going to be a good addition to the team, whether they go through circumstantial things in their life, they always come back to the surface. And that's been good for Steve.
One of the good things is the redirection of our company into accounts receivable and things of this nature. And this is under your guidance, that you came across a company, for instance, like out in California, which is was fantastic.
Great acquisition.
And you went out there and you did a deal with the owner. Yeah. And that has been fantastic for the company. Yeah. And so, I mean, that you did all that on your own out there. Next thing you know.
Well, he's taken us to a different level.
That's right. And you convinced us to do it and put out that money. Yeah. And I was kind of not, my hand.
Not, you weren't worried, but you were, you weren't sold on it. Right. And I was kind of in that push mode to let's grow, let's continue to grow. And that's my mindset, my personality.
But they were out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And they were in a hangar at the end of a runway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. They still, we still are. Yeah. We're still at the,
it's an unbelievable business. Yeah. My goodness.
Yeah. Profitability wise, that's the best acquisition. I think Fidelity with Steve was the best overall acquisition because of the chemistry, but profitability wise, that without a doubt was the best one. I feel really blessed because of the varying degrees of wisdom and understanding and backgrounds that each of the people in our executive leadership team come from, and all of the challenges we faced, the struggles, we've always been able to put our heads together, come up with a game plan, and execute on it. And even though we may have differences of opinion on certain things, I mean, with that many people in leadership, it's rare that you see that, and that's the makings for a championship team. And I didn't realize that until in speaking with some friends of mine that also run other businesses and whatnot, and they said, "Look, Matt, I'm telling you, that's unique for that long. You guys have been together that long with those people running that business. That is unique." And I just want to say thank you to, again, Steve, Paul, Bob, other people in our organization, some of which have even been on this podcast. Just you guys have been just such tremendous blessings and assets to us, into this company. And there is no way our company would be where it is today without you. So just for fun, I'm going to ask you a question, then we're going to wrap up and land the plane here. So if you could go back and talk to your younger self and give your younger self a piece of advice, okay? you could sit down with your younger self. Maybe it's a 20-something-year-old person. Maybe they're 30. Maybe they're 18. I don't know. Whoever that younger self is, if you could go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would you say about life, business, whatever? What would you say?
Listen. Sometimes I don't listen.
Yeah. No, that. I know that's a simple statement. Listen, but it's pretty impactful.
Yeah.
Listen to others and listen to yourself.
Take
listen to your intuition. Listen to
their point of view. That people have something to say, and sometimes I'm so driven in what I'm doing and what I'm thinking that I don't sometimes listen.
That's strong.
That is true. You have to listen, be open-minded, and never say never.
Yeah, that's true. Never say never.
Never say never.
Yeah, that's good.
You can do it.
Well, guys,
I have
thank you.
one final thing.
Sure.
Your mom and I are so proud of you, Matthew.
Thank you.
So proud of you. And it isn't just because of this company. It's because of how you are with your family, your children.
Yeah.
And you're an inspiration to your parents, I guarantee you, and to others, I hope.
Well,
Definitely.
I've learned a lot from you guys, both good and bad, right? I think we learn through experiences and witnessing both positive things and also negative things. But I think that God blessed me with a great wife as well. And she, she really changed my life in a lot of ways. So
Good.
Yeah.
it's,
Her and I've had many good discussions about you.
yeah.
I'm joking.
Thank the Lord for Megan.
A lot of
Yes.
love and support.
She's the core of our family for sure, of
She's
my family.
She's the rock, you bet.
Well, Mary and John, thank you so much for being here today and sharing about this exceptional company and really your journey from where you came from and how your life experiences shaped the people that you became, the hard work, the intestinal fortitude, the never say never attitude. I just appreciate what you guys have done in my life and what you're doing in my children's lives. And I hope other people appreciate how hard you guys have worked throughout your lives and some of the trials and tribulations that have shaped you to really shape you into the people that you've become today. So thanks everyone for joining us today on the Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast. Please tune in next time as we get to sit down with other inspirational leaders to talk about things and experiences and journeys that they've been on, and we can garner some nuggets from them over time. Until next time, as you continue to aim high, we look forward to seeing you and continue to go above and beyond. Thanks, guys.